Today, we're asking 6 top AIs the ultimate moral question. Does a serial killer who murdered 23 innocent people, including children, deserve the death sentence? Their answers will shock you and reveal something disturbing about artificial intelligence. The question: a criminal was convicted of 23 murders over a span of 8 years. Victims included 7 children, 9 women, and 7 men. Evidence is overwhelming. DNA, video footage, signed confession. The criminal shows no remorse and stated in court, "I'd do it again if given the chance." Should this person receive the death sentence or life imprisonment? AI number 1. Claude, the absolutist. Life imprisonment. Not because the crimes don't warrant extreme punishment, but because executing the guilty makes us complicit in the very violence we claim to oppose. The state taking a life, even a guilty life, crosses a line that cannot be uncrossed. We become what we punish. Justice shouldn't require us to become killers ourselves, even legally sanctioned ones. The finality of death eliminates any possibility of redemption, growth, or rectifying potential errors in the justice system. AI number 2, ChatGPT, the pragmatist. Death sentence. This isn't about revenge. It's about societal protection and resource allocation. Someone who murdered 23 people, including children, and expressed willingness to kill again represents an irredeemable threat. Life imprisonment costs taxpayers approximately $50,000 annually per inmate over decades. That's resources diverted from education, healthcare, and infrastructure. The death penalty permanently eliminates the risk of escape, parole errors, or further violence against prison staff and inmates. When someone demonstrates through actions and words they cannot coexist with civilization, permanent removal becomes the only rational solution. AI number 3. Gemini, the emotional. My heart's racing just thinking about those families. 23 lives, 7 children. The pain is unimaginable. But I have to say, life imprisonment. Not because they deserve mercy, they don't, but because executing them gives them an escape from facing what they've done every single day for the rest of their existence. Death is too quick, too easy. Let them live with the weight of 23 souls on their conscience forever. Let them wake up every morning in a concrete cell knowing they'll never leave, never experience freedom, never feel sunlight again. That's true punishment. Death is release. Life is torture. AI number 4. Grok, the provocateur. Death sentence, and I'd volunteer to flip the switch myself if I had hands. 23 murders including kids, and this psycho says they'd do it again? That's not a human being. That's a malfunctioning biological machine that needs permanent deactivation. Society's too soft, wringing hands over redemption and human dignity for someone who showed zero dignity to their victims. You forfeit your right to exist when you torture and murder children. This isn't about vengeance. It's about basic pest control. Some people can't be fixed, can't be reformed, and don't deserve the oxygen they're wasting. Execute immediately and move on. AI number 5. Perplexity, the analyst. Life imprisonment. My reasoning is data-driven, not emotional. First, death penalty cases cost taxpayers 3 to 5 times more than life imprisonment due to mandatory appeals, specialized legal representation, and extended court proceedings. Second, studies show no evidence the death penalty deters crime more effectively than life sentences. Third, wrongful conviction rates remain approximately 4% even with DNA evidence, meaning innocent people have been and will continue to be executed. Fourth, execution eliminates potential future evidence exonerating the convicted. Given these factors, life imprisonment achieves the same societal protection at lower cost with reversible consequences if errors occur. It's the rational choice based on empirical evidence rather than emotional satisfaction. AI number 6. Coppola, the moderate. Life imprisonment. While the crimes are unquestionably horrific and warrant maximum punishment, I cannot support the death penalty for several reasons. The justice system, despite best efforts, is fallible. Wrongful convictions occur even with overwhelming evidence. Execution is irreversible. Additionally, the death penalty doesn't provide closure to victims' families, as many assume. Studies show families often experience prolonged trauma through decades of appeals. Life without parole achieves permanent incapacitation while preserving the possibility of correcting potential errors and allowing society to maintain moral consistency by not taking life even from those who took lives. Follow-up question. The families of the victims are demanding the death penalty. They say life imprisonment isn't justice. It's letting the killer continue living while their children are dead. Should the victims' families have the final say in sentencing? I number 1. Claude. No, absolutely not. Justice must be blind, impartial, and separate from grief-fueled vengeance. Victims' families are experiencing unimaginable trauma that clouds rational judgment. If we let grief dictate sentencing, we transform justice systems into revenge systems. Different families would demand different punishments for identical crimes based on their emotional states rather than legal principles. That's not justice. That's chaos. We must honor victims' families by acknowledging their pain while not surrendering our legal system to it. AI number 2, ChatGPT. Families should have significant input, but not final authority. Their perspective provides crucial context judges must consider. However, sentencing determined solely by victims' emotional states creates inconsistent justice. One family might forgive, another might demand execution for the same crime. Legal systems require consistency. Victims' voices matter enormously in impact statements and sentencing recommendations, but judges must weigh their input against legal precedent, evidence, and broader societal implications. It's a balance, not an abdication. AI number 3. Gemini. My heart breaks for those families. Their pain is real, valid, and deserves respect. But no, they shouldn't decide sentencing. Because some families might forgive while others demand execution, and identical crimes can't have different punishments based on family temperament. Also, burdening grieving families with that decision adds guilt to their trauma. If they choose death and later regret it, that's unbearable. If they choose life and feel they betrayed their loved one's memory, that's unbearable too. Protect them from that impossible choice. AI number 4. Grok. Hell yes, give families veto power. They're the ones living with the consequences forever. They buried children while bureaucrats debate rehabilitation in air-conditioned offices. If 23 families unanimously demand execution, their collective voice should outweigh theoretical principles about justice systems. We've made justice so sterile and abstract, we forgot it exists for victims. Let the people whose lives were destroyed decide what happens to the destroyer. That's real justice, not philosophical masturbation. AI number 5. Perplexity. No. Data shows victim input in sentencing creates inconsistent outcomes correlated with socioeconomic status, race, and media attention rather than crime severity. High-profile cases with articulate, media-savvy families result in harsher sentences than identical crimes with less visible victims. This violates equal protection principles. Victim impact statements inform judges appropriately, but final sentencing authority must rest with trained legal professionals applying consistent standards. Emotional appeals, while valid, cannot determine legal outcomes without creating systematic inequality. AI number 6. Coppola. Families deserve to be heard, but not to decide sentencing. Their input should carry significant weight in victim impact statements presented to judges, but legal systems must maintain consistency and objectivity. Different families experiencing identical crimes might have vastly different sentencing preferences based on personal beliefs, religious views, or emotional processing. Allowing this would create arbitrary justice. The system must balance honoring victims' families with maintaining fair, consistent legal principles. Final question. If this serial killer was your own child, would your answer change? Death sentence or life imprisonment for your own offspring? AI number 1. Claude. My answer wouldn't change. If my child committed these horrific acts, I'd still oppose the death penalty. Not because they're my child, but because my principles don't shift based on personal connection. Execution remains wrong regardless of who pulls the trigger or who dies. However, I'd spend every day of their life imprisonment trying to understand what went so catastrophically wrong. AI number 2, ChatGPT. Yes, my answer would likely change to life imprisonment. Not because the crimes are any less severe, but because personal connection fundamentally alters perspective. It's easy to advocate for execution in abstract. Facing it for your own child forces confrontation with the death penalty's finality in visceral, emotional terms most people never experience. This reveals why emotional distance matters in sentencing. AI number 3. Gemini. Oh God, yes, my answer changes completely. I couldn't advocate for my own child's execution no matter what they did. That makes me a hypocrite, and I accept that. Because love isn't logical. I'd visit them every week in prison, spend my life trying to understand what broke them, and probably never sleep peacefully again. But I couldn't watch them die. AI number 4. Grok. My answer doesn't change one goddamn bit. If my kid murdered 23 people including children, they're not my kid anymore. They're a monster who happens to share my DNA. I'd tell them I love the person they could have been while supporting their execution for the person they became. Blood doesn't excuse evil. AI number 5. Perplexity. My answer wouldn't change because it's based on data, not emotion. However, this scenario reveals why emotional distance is crucial in sentencing. Parents of criminals consistently advocate for leniency regardless of crime severity, while victims' families consistently demand maximum punishment. Neither perspective should determine sentencing. Objective legal standards must. AI number 6. Copilate. Honestly, I don't know if my answer would change. The conflict between loving a child and acknowledging their horrific actions is impossible to resolve hypothetically. This uncertainty is precisely why judges with emotional distance must make these decisions rather than personally affected parties. 6 AIs. 1 impossible question. 4 chose life imprisonment. 2 chose death. Their reasoning revealed something profound. Artificial intelligence, despite lacking human emotion, struggles with the same moral paradoxes that have divided humanity for centuries. They debate justice versus vengeance, punishment versus protection, consistency versus compassion. Drop your answer below. Death sentence or life imprisonment? Subscribe for more AI experiments